All right, I think we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here with my friend and colleague Yulia, who is a well-being and mental health coach, and my wise person when I'm thinking of anything somatic related. And my name is Alisa. I'm a psychologist, coach, and a meditation teacher. And Yulia, I'd love for you to say a couple words for yourself as well, to introduce yourself.
Yes. So I am, very into the body, and me being a mental coach today is a part of my journey that I have been on for quite a long time, journey to mental resilience. And at some moment, I discovered that the mental resilience is actually grounded in physical body. And this is, part of the core part of what I do, helping people reconnect the mental and the physical. And it's, I find it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, like in my background, it was very like the emphasis was so much on the mental and the cognitive, and and it really denied sort of the somatic aspects. And I feel like now there's a reckoning with that, and there's a lot more emphasis on that. And yeah, it's long overdue. So I'm really happy that you do that work. And yeah, maybe just a little bit about the topic and what we wanted to share with you today is this topic of choosing discomfort over resentment. And so, by the way, this is not us coming up with it. That's a Brené Brown quote, if you haven't heard of it. But it just really beautifully summarizes what we want to talk about today. And that had to do with the conditioning or socialization we have as women. But really, this is something that is relevant for everyone. And it has to do with how sometimes, for example, we don't have hard conversations because we're afraid to be rejected, or because we're like, I certainly have a very strong tendency to please people, which I think also has to do with this thing how we're socialized of like always being told to be nice and not be angry or loud or fit in. So how does that sit with you, Yulia?
Yeah. So when we discussed a topic for our life, and we wanted to talk about women, and also as because we're women and we have gone through a lot of the things that we will be discussing today. And for me, when Alisa said resentment over discomfort, I was like, yeah, for me, resentment is was such a big thing for a long time, like for years of my life. I was like, okay, everything is fine, but why is there so much resentment? It's like, I love my family, and why this resentment? So it's it was kind of my signal that made me, I guess, research, explore, do something about it. And my story for a long time was that I come, my kids come first, my family comes first, and then expecting from them in return that they will treat me with attention to my needs and to my desires. And the thing that was missing was me sharing those desires and needs. And so I remember that, with my husband, who we've been together for over 20 years. And at some point, several years ago, he said, I don't know anything, almost anything about you. Like, what
Oh,
you
wow.
like, what you want.
Right. And
Wow.
you probably said, well, I don't know that myself.
And that's actually one of the effects of going with the desires of others before your desires and needs, is that with time you don't know anymore, who you are, what you want, what you need. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, I think my first relationship, I went to see the parents of my ex-boyfriend back then, and boyfriend back then, and the mom told me, asked me what kind of tea I wanted, and I don't know, and it was also out of I didn't know, and also I wanted to be easy and not really have any demands, or and she said something like, "We don't have that." She pretty sick. Is like, and it just really struck me how this is such a such a such a thing throughout the life of, well, my life, but it's really with so many women I talk to or speak to, that you shared, this thing about always anticipating other people's needs and feelings and expectations, and thus also putting them first, and at some point don't actually know what are my needs, what do I actually want, and then also this part of, if I don't know what I want, I won't communicate it, or also I just expect others to get it without actually saying it, right? That's something I really had to learn as well. And I think that's also where the resentment can come in. It's I'm doing all these things and they don't do anything for me, so I actually expect them to do things for me, but they don't know about this. Right? I've never actually expressed.
Yeah, I don't know what these things are, and but anyway.
Yeah, and I mean that just makes it kind of impossible for them to fulfill them, and also obviously they don't have to fulfill them, but if I don't ever express them, they don't even get the chance to. And that's really why do you think is it so uncomfortable for us to have those conversations or express those needs, or
yeah, I mean, we live by multiple stories in our heads, right? So it has to do what we experienced when we were kids, so what we were taught in school, and at universities, by people around us. And I grew up in Russia, in the Soviet Union, and even besides the fact that I was a woman and supposed to kind of know my place, although in my family, actually, my mom was the one, the breadwinner, and she was quite an independent woman. But still, and outside of that, there's in the Soviet Union, you were not supposed to have any special needs or desires, more conform and be like others, and be there for others, but not for yourself. And so it's double volume of those things. And then also, some of the things in my family where my dad was an alcoholic, and so a lot of the things had to be better kept inside, because who knows, it was safer this way. So
yeah,
a lot of things piling up, and you end up with all those secrets about yourself and your desires that you just keep inside. And at one point, I guess, they can just explode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gretchen.
Hi there. Well, you make a good point with this safety, right? Like that developed because it made us feel or be safe at some point. Like all these like people pleasing, sort of not saying what we need or express. It's a protection mechanism, right? Oh, hi, Gretchen. So.
Right.
So I think there's also a lot of compassion to be sad for that, or to be expressed for that, because it had a function. And I think that's also important, because I think we can also then, once we realize, oh, we're doing this and it's not serving us, that we can get into the judge mode and judge ourselves for it, and not actually change something, just judging ourselves for it. And so, yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that, especially when you said, like, for example, with having a father that was alcoholic, that it was actually the safest thing you could do, right? And as women, also, a lot of times that's sort of like, it's actually safer to not speak up, right? So Gretchen asked, do you feel that it's harder to express compassion for others than for ourselves?
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah, it's like this distorted glass, I guess, that we look at ourselves through.
Do you mean the other way around? Because she asked if it's harder to express compassion for others than ourselves. I feel like it's harder to express compassion for myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
For me.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, like, I just wanted to acknowledge someone shared that we expect others to be telepathic about what we need, and it's not always easy to express, but we have to try. Yeah, and I think that's a good point to what we were talking about before.
Yes. And so what you were mentioning, that those like our survival strategies, they were very useful at some point. And I think it's really important to respect that. And actually, some of that, most of those survival strategies, and people pleasing is one of them, give us some superpowers. And for example, a lot of people go then into helping professions, who are like people pleasing because they're can tune into other people very easily and understand like what state they're in, what they need. And it's about acknowledging that this is like something really powerful and precious that we have, and it has a purpose, and it had a purpose. But can we take that as our gift, but then get more conscious about where and how often we use it?
Yes, yeah, that's a really good point. And it's also about how, like, when is it playing out to help others and myself, and when is it actually hurting? And that's where the resentment, like you said at the beginning, is such a good indicator, because when I feel resentment, then very, very likely there's a boundary that I haven't set or haven't communicated, and or like I didn't stay true to me or to my integrity, and then I start like being resentful or blaming others, and that's a really ugly place to be in. And it's funny, like, I just read up some of the research that Brené Brown did, and she said that, she just did an average of how, like, this feeling of uncomfortableness or discomfort, like, say I have like a difficult conversation with you, and like actually expressing what comes up for me, that this intense feeling of discomfort is maybe 8 seconds. But then, like, the resentment that you carry around, you can carry that around for 40 years, right? Like, it's like, if
Yeah, easy.
or your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, to look at that from this perspective, it's like, yeah, maybe you want to think it over and lean into that discomfort. And so maybe that's also something I would love to talk about, is sort of this: what is it costing you or us if we don't lean into the discomfort? um yeah.
Yeah. At some point when I was working with women in burnout, like feeling quite depressed, a thing that was coming up a lot, and it's like interesting that those women, I asked something like, how does it show up for you, and offered a couple of options. And one of them was not being able to even order something at a restaurant because you have no clue what you want. It's like your story with tea. And so many people resonated with that. It's like, yes, exactly. It's like, I come to restaurants and I have no clue what to order. So like, I have to think, I have to analyze outside. So what did that nutrition consultant say? Or, what did I read there? Or, what would my friends approve of? Or,
Yes.
also it's like
Yeah.
huge amounts of energy, and still, you cannot make that kind of decision only looking at outside,
Yeah.
because you just have to know. And this
Yeah.
is the ability of knowing inside of you, and this is actually our intuition is also based on that gets impaired when we override it many times. We want something, we need something, but yet it's like, no, why don't I go and clean after my kids? Or why don't I go and say yes when I want to say no? It's
Mhm.
like, and those signals from the nervous system is like, okay, then, we're just going to shut them down until it gets out in some powerful way. And yeah, so just kind of lose the foundation of ourselves, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's really apt that we don't, like, we lose the connection to our bodies and our sort of the feedback from our bodies, right? Like we don't actually, and I think that's also why there's, we talked about that, all the eating disorders, for example, that are so prevalent in women, which also there's an association, right, with like not actually feeling the signals of our bodies anymore. This disconnection, and there's there's no trust in ourselves, and that's why I have to ask my friends, my doctor, and there's nothing wrong with like consulting an expert, right? Like that's a smart thing to do, but I also, like, I'm the person that has the direct feedback, and if I don't trust that, it becomes very unsafe to live, right? And not very, it's not a very nice place to be. um yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite a yeah, a place of discomfort actually for us, like long-term discomfort as opposed to those 8 seconds. And also it
Mhm.
actually brings a lot of strain and discomfort into relationships that we want to improve, or we mean to improve, when we don't express our needs. Because looking at the other side, when people don't know what you like or what you need, well, they're going to be doing their own thing. Maybe they will be trying to please you, maybe they will not. But also, they will feel quite distant, and they will not feel that they're trusted. And so this is not really a way for an open and intimate relationship, when you are not letting people into your needs and desires.
Yeah, and there's a paradox in it, because I think we don't express our needs and desires because we're afraid to not be accepted or liked by someone. But then when we do this, actually that what we're afraid of will happen, right? Like, because there's no, like, if I don't know if someone says, if they say yes, they actually mean yes, or they say no, they actually mean no. Like, it's a really strange place to be, and I don't actually know that person. And yeah, and so it's this paradox that we are so afraid of disconnection, but actually by doing the exact same, by doing that, by avoiding that fear, we're actually creating that reality that we so fear. So it's like, yeah. And just one thing that came to my mind when you were describing this, we're not looking inside, we're maybe looking outside for what we should want, is a story of someone that shared with me that she was observing the friends of her kids, like boys and girls, and at some point she asked, like, do you want something to eat, are you hungry? And so the boys, like, each of them, a couple said yes, a couple said no, and the girls, they kind of looked around what the other girls would do, and then at some point one person that was silently assigned the leader or spokesperson said, no, thank you, very politely, no, thank you, I'm fine. And also in the way they said, like, the boys were just, relaxed, like sitting or laying there, and the girls were all like this, sort of really like neatly, and that just struck a chord. Just like, oh my God, yeah, that sums it up quite nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can see a lot of change now in the kids. My daughter is 11, and she's, I guess she even makes a point of showing that she knows what she wants, how to get it. Yeah, but I recognize that story.
Yeah, it's true. There definitely is change. I also wanted to see. So Gretchen asked how to do that. I guess leaning into discomfort and what happens if you don't. And then someone else asked, how do you think we can recenter on what we really want rather than what others think we need?
Yeah, for me, I can show that from the body perspective that really worked for me. And so if we go back to where our desires and needs live, it's actually inside. And so if we see emotions and sensations and what comes first, that modern research suggests that it's actually sensations in the body and something happening to the body that comes first. And it's when we see an angry dog, for example, first we brace, our breath changes, our heart rate changes, and only then this information is translated as an emotion of fear to the nervous system. And so, how do we know what we want? We actually, all the time, our nervous system communicates to us some kind of reaction. A reaction is, it's like an immune system, basically. And that's how one part of our brain works. The limbic system, it's like an immune system recording different reactions. And so if we were in tune with our body and internal sensations, then we would just like notice how our breath shifted, how our heart rate shifted, how there's heavy or light something in the body, and most of the emotions live here from the pelvic floor to the neck. And but the thing is, when we live in for a long time, like in stressful zones or in shutdown zones like depression, for example, we disconnect from those. It's a protective mechanism of the nervous system. So basically, how do we find out what we really want? My way is connecting back. And connecting back means very like simple things. For example, feeling your feet on the floor and like moving them and feeling your toes, and then like tapping different parts of your body and feeling, this is my hands, this is my chest, this is my neck, this is my stomach, and feeling how they're warm, how they're cold. So basically, this is just reconnecting to those sensations, and your attention usually, when you don't know what you want, it's outside, and then learning to shift it inside. And this is, you will just start noticing, for example, that, oh, this is what I want right now, or this is what I don't want. And it's those reactions, will are not rational, but they're yours, and they come from the inside. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that too. That part about they're not necessarily rational, but they're yours, because I think a lot of times there's feelings out there, and we're like, no, we're not supposed to have these feelings or needs, because they don't fit into, I don't know, what's expected or whatever. But that's not the question here. Like, they're there. Like, there's nothing wrong with that feeling or need being there, right? Like, and it's yours or ours uniquely. Yeah, and I think a big part of that is also, like, personally for me, it was also just experimenting, because I've like, for a long time, I've always sort of done what I thought I should do, or like looking outside. And so for me, it was also experiment, like trying out this and seeing if I like it, like, and actually seeing if I like it, and not if someone else thinks it's cool or whatever. So like a big part is just a fun process, actually, to getting to know yourself, I think. Like, it's not, it's something really beautiful. Like, I think it's really a very beautiful journey. And another thing is what you shared about outside intention, but or attention versus inside attention. I think it's also quite nice to take these moments. For me, I mean, like, I'm into meditation, but that could be whatever it might be for you, to just create a space where you are just with yourself, and just sort of getting to know yourself that way. And that's like an internal exploration, and creating safety with that as well, because a lot of times we don't actually feel so safe in our own bodies, right? And then another thing I think is, like, on a very practical level, if I know I want to set a certain boundary, or I want to say something that might be uncomfortable because I might be rejected, maybe someone will say no to me, or whatever it might be, is to practice it ahead of time, and just really do it, or even visualize it, because our brain doesn't really differentiate between if you imagine it or if you do it. Like, you're still practicing, like you're practicing the same neuronal pathways. So it's a really, like, I find it's a really helpful tool to practice that. And community, I feel, so we do, like, with another friend and colleague of mine, we do these Fear Self-Compassion for Women workshops, where we also practice setting boundaries. And a big part of it is to see that you're actually not alone in this, that it's hard for others as well. And then when I'm in the actual, so I can practice with the women, and when I'm in the actual situation, I know, like, because a lot of times maybe some of the objections are like, oh, this is selfish, like, this makes you selfish. But then when I know I actually don't only do that for myself, but also for all the women, or like maybe people that watch, then, like, it really empowers me, because I'm not, like, because the fear behind it is always a fear of disconnection. And if I know, no, I'm actually connected to a lot of women and people, then it empowers me. And, or like, even I guess, I'm not a mother, but Yulia, you are. I guess, like, the thought of would I want my daughter to do this, what I'm doing right now, can maybe also be helpful, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think finding ways that are safe, sometimes maybe small and even fun, like finding situations where you can more or less safely say nope, yes, I like it, I don't like it. And even if you like even don't fully feel the meaning of these words resonating in the body, but just like I like it, I don't like it, no, yes, no, 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 no. And it's fun. It's fun to practice. I think with kids, it's fun to practice with friends. I sometimes practice it with clients because it's hard to say no. It's like, no, can you say no to me? To me, I will like be fine taking your no. I want you to say no to me. And I remember with one client, just like, no, 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 no. So I think we practiced for like 15 minutes or so until she was able to say no to me. And it, of course, doesn't mean that she will be able to, that she was able to say no to the rest of the people. But like the brain remembers that neuroplasticity, it kicks in. So every time it will be a little bit easier. And I have also is like a small exercise that, no, rather not exercise, just something that can be used for that. And it's creating an imprint of your yes and no in the body. And you can do that by, for example, thinking about something that you are sure you like, or like let's say you like it. And when you imagine this thing, it can be a food, it can be an experience, it can be a person. Just go and scan for any internal sensations that you get, you can feel inside. For example, this is my yes, right? So I will be collecting those internal sensations. Every time I can think of something that I definitely like, I will be going into my body. It's like, okay, I can feel this lightness in the chest and some expansion, and I feel some warmth somewhere or some softness. And then next time I have a question, if I like it or not, I can go to that imprint. And again, it's like, is this an imprint of yes or no?
Yeah. Well, how is that? Let's say if you are in a situation where you actually want to say something, but there's fear, and you feel that fear in your body. How would, like, do you have any thoughts on how to deal with that?
Yeah. So any emotion is again information. Right? So as you, as, researcher Brené Brown states, and there is more research on how long these emotions live if we allow them to be. So it takes practice, because usually when we feel fear, we tend to, again, brace. And it's as if the signal is there, but we're saying, nope, nope, nope. Right? And the goal instead of this, to like kind of let it go through you. And it's also, I mean, it takes practice, right? But how can you allow yourself to feel it? And then it can be even helpful for expressing yourself, because you get confident that this is what you really want to do by understanding that this is now like an imprint of yes, for example, or no. And so this gives you some like ground and confidence. And then this emotion, when you take it as a signal, it doesn't really prevent you. It's kind of like this a little bit of resistance that is created before we go into flow state, for example.
Yeah. And I think one other thing that came up when we talked was let's say if we talk about setting a boundary, for example, like a lot of times I think we think, okay, now when I finally was able to set the boundary, that's it. But there's also when we do that and it's something we've never done, there's going to be a lot of like chatter after, oh, well, you maybe want to like take it back or like want them to like you again and all of these things. And so like I think it's really important to then also like either ground ourselves with, you know, all the things that you mentioned before, like feeling the feet on the ground or just sensations in the body, and or also reaching out to a friend and just talk about it, like connection or something like that, so that we don't fall back into that, because this is also something that happens quite often. Like finally I was able to express it, and then what comes, like the feelings that come up then are bringing me to taking it back, and then or saying, oh no, but you know, it's not that important, like putting it, like making it relative. and and then of course others won't take us seriously because it's sort of, well, what do you want? um, and so it's just something to also keep in mind that that will come up, and that's okay, right? And then we just if we have some tools that we can deal with that as well.
Yeah, it doesn't turn out so well when we haven't practiced for a long time, but then with practice, it always gets better.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that's also right, celebrating when we did it, however it turned out, just celebrating ourselves for each step, and in bringing playfulness and fun into it as well. Yeah, I think that's a really important one. And is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share today.
Awesome, because there is consistent. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I actually have this. I have a little quote for the end from Brené Brown, which I really love. So I thought maybe it's a nice way to end. I'm going to read it. It's called Manifesto of the Brave and Brokenhearted. There's no greater threat to the critics and cynics and fearmongers than those of us who are willing to fall because we have learned how to rise with skinned knees and bruised hearts. We choose our own stories of struggle over hiding, over hustling, over pretending. When we deny our stories, they define us. When we run from struggle, we are never free. So we turn towards truth and look it in the eye. We will not be characters in our stories, not villains, not victims, not even heroes. We are the authors of our lives. We write our own daring endings. We craft love from heartbreak, compassion from shame, grace from disappointment, courage from failure. Showing up is our power. Story is our way home. Truth is our song. We are the brave and brokenhearted. We are rising strong.
Yeah, nice.
All right. Thank you so much, Yulia, and thank you, everyone.
Alisa, it was fun. Thank you, everyone who was here. Gretchen, we love you.
You too. Bye.